to Truck It. It's time for your Nooner with Dooner. Thank you for joining me. It's Friday, right before the Super Bowl. Sure, you're all very anxious out here. Although down in the South, it's like much more college focused down here. So like the hype isn't nearly as big as it usually was, you know, when I was back up in Boston. But that might have something to do with the Patriots always being in there. They're not in there this year. Anyways, newsletter came out yesterday. I don't know if you're a subscriber. What the Truck newsletter comes out every Thursday. If you are not, join the 14,000 other ones who are subscribed. Go to freightwaves.com/WTT. And in that, I asked the driver community, can you ever be too old to drive a truck? And you know, some cynical guys in the driver community sometimes, but I was a little surprised by the responses, pleasantly surprised. Truck's Part Inventory says, so long as you can do the job safely, you're never too old. Trucker X said he lasted 24 years and got out. He's 49 now, and like it or not, I may be going back in some capacity, probably just a local hack. Can't get out, man. It's the Roach Motel of supply chain. We got Nova here. He said, as long as you can pass a DOT physical. Rob Pedro Peterson, shout out Robbie. He said, never too old. It's an experience for any stage of life. Nathan Lewis says 12. He actually he retired himself, so that might be his perspective there. B. Simmons said, as long as you're not jeopardizing the safety of yourself and others, do it. I have a 73-year-old flatbedder that still throws 8-foot tarps, likes to stay out a couple months, then go home a month or two. Loves working with this generation. Just gets it done and tells me the stories afterwards. Santino Trucking Goombas says 30. Yellowstone Super Volcano says 24. Ed Mape said, there's no retirement age for truck drivers. Just be safe, and all depends on how much BS you can handle. It's stressful at times. Salvatore Isolina says, nowadays, anyone is too late to start trucking based on the market conditions. Yeah, if you've looked in Sonar, a little rough. But you know what? Those used truck prices are coming down. We talked about that just the other day. Mustafa Azizi from Zoom, he said, I operate a fleet of 40 nationally, and our best driver who ran the cleanest, most miles per shift and never missed a day was in fact 78 years of age. Never is the answer as long as you're cognitive and your physicality is still there. Little cowbell for that. And then Rooster and Justin, also former drivers, they said over at Back the Truck Up, I started 6 months ago, and I'm having the time of my life. Jeff, age 32. I guess this business can age you a little bit. We also put another question out the community. It was Fuel Point best and worst buys, and it was prompted by this cup that some driver posted, and he was debating whether or not to spend his points on this horn. Can you roll that here? I'm not sure if you would grab one, but I put this out there, and they said, Carrie says, an egg salad sandwich is the worst thing that she got, probably overpriced these days. Peter said nothing. He likes to use his points towards a CB radio. He's gotten an antenna. He's gotten toy trucks from his kids, and he got his first ever headset using those. Back the Truck Up said a roller dog. Tanner DeHart says, can you buy crypto with fuel points? Rob, almost PSG, said peak of COVID, low fuel prices. This is the best thing he got, was 90 cents per gallon for premium. Ooh, that sounds tasty. Wes Harmon says he got $315 points on his pilot account. He's fixing to buy a nav system. He's hooking up his whole new truck. So people putting these to good use. And then Justin Martin, this shirt must look lovely on him. Let's take a look at this unicorn shirt he bought for himself in a size 2XL. It's got to look sharp on you, Justin. Wear that to our next FreightWaves event. Couple Super Bowl bets coming up, too. Chiefs quarterback, prop bets. Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes goes over 1.5 passing touchdowns. You got that one? I'm taking the over. Will Rihanna expose a butt cheek on stage? Yes, minus 300. No, minus 110. I'll go yes. National anthem under 205. Chris Stapleton singing it. I'm going under. And then Jalen Hurts with more rushing yards than the lowest score at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, plus 175. I don't know. I like that one, though. I'll go over. All right, on the show today, we got plenty of amazing guests. Let's get right into it. Sorry about that. I deleted my guest rundown when I put my prop bets in here. We're talking to StoneLoads Patrick Wells about the logistics of moving stones, building a marketplace for them, and why the business of rocks. How the logistics behind shipping goods to Hawaii and Alaska works. That's why I got this lay right here. That's Monica Thornton. It was just her birthday yesterday, so a little happy birthday to Monica. And 3PL's taking a hit in this economy. It's tough, right? We're seeing all these people getting laid off. All this talk. Well, how do you keep your company running, especially when you're cutting costs? One of those ways is outsourcing. We got Valoroo, a new company to me. I got to find out where that name came from. It's Nick Schrock, plus brazen Amazon driver robbery. Are you ever old enough to drive a truck? Are you ever too old to drive a truck? We just did that. Southwest FedEx near miss reenacted. That's a crazy video. I'll show it to you at the end. And an excavator saving a deer. So let's tip the band, and then we'll get into today's broadcast. Let's go. You think AIT Worldwide Logistics as an average U.S. forwarder, but in the past decade, they've evolved to become a global transportation management leader, generating nearly $3 billion in annual revenue by providing supply chain solutions for Fortune 500 companies shipping between Asia, Europe, and North America. Despite the company's exponential growth, they are still the experts when it comes to creating customized solutions to fulfill your supply chain requirements. Find out how your business can benefit from AIT's logistics pros at AITworldwide.com. But let's find out what's in a name. It's Valoroo's Nick Schrock. He's the founder and CEO over there. And I like the big logo he's got going on behind his desk. What's up, Nick?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
What is Valoroo, the name, come from? It had me curious.
Yeah, so when we were deciding on a name, what we really wanted to do was have something that meant to bring value. Right. That's always what we're trying to do in every aspect of what we have. So when you translate value into a number of different languages, it comes out as valor. So valor, I don't think we'd ever win that Google search if you just there. So we just had a lot of iterations on startups, and actually my wife came up with it. She said, "Hey, how do you like Valoroo?" And I'm like, "Oh, it sounds really cool." So went with it and kind of off to the races.
Hey, I love that. I work with my wife on like all my designs here, like logos and stuff like that. I was half expecting an Australian accent with the Roo. Our own Rachel Premack had a theory.
We get that quite a bit.
Well, what is Valoroo? For those who don't know, I like the name. It's really catchy.
Yeah, so we provide outsourcing solutions specifically to transportation and logistics. So what that really means is we build teams in the Philippines for transportation companies, carriers, and so on, to take over kind of redundant, repetitive tasks, track and trace, carrier sales, operations, accounting, kind of you name it. We take those over to allow local teams to become more strategic.
So you're using outsourcing to fill the gaps. It's not a new concept, but what makes you guys new and different from that?
Yeah, and I would say, because even though we are transportation specific, that's unique in outsourcing. But like you said, there are a number of other people doing that as well. And I'd say one thing that really sets us apart is, number one, is just who we recruit. Right? We're not looking for, on our end, low-cost kids fresh out of college that are ready to work, really hungry. We're trying to go up market. And for example, everyone we hire is coming in with some type of logistics experience. They've either worked for a carrier before or worked for a broker before. So we're not having to train them, hey, this is what a BOL is. This is what a POD is. We can focus our time on the actual specifics of the broker or the logistics company, and it just puts us way ahead of the game. And then also just what we do in training, I think, is pretty cool and pretty unique. I'm sure, as you know, most of the time when you get your first job in logistics, you go, okay, what am I doing? They go, oh, sit with Jeff. Jeff will show you what to do, and you just learn by the osmosis of the company. And while that's great, it's a great way to learn. It's not a great way to scale a company. So as we're onboarding in these roles, we'll actually record these training sessions. Our onboarding team takes them back in the evening, and they write out a standard operating procedure, a how-to guide on all of these, everything the brokerage does or the carrier does. And then we put them into a virtual playbook. So that way it's an employee handbook essentially for the company.
I remember my first account when I walked in. I came from like the music industry. I had no idea what a broker was. I just needed money at the time. I thought it'd be like a 3-month thing. They hand me this Reebok account that they just landed. Reebok Air Freight. No pressure. Just massive billion-dollar company on the hottest type of shipments. But it was a great way to learn. I mean, it was trial by fire, and I did have that by me. But a playbook would have helped. Although I will say FedEx had great training. But I saw like an incredible stat on LinkedIn this morning, and it was that 2/3 of workers are looking for new jobs right now. 2/3 of workers, 2 out of 3 people in your house are looking for workers. Look, supply chain has always had issues with retention, from drivers to brokers to sales where you're cannon fodder. How are you helping with that, and how have you helped 3PLs through the Great Resignation and all this movement that's been going on with labor?
Right, and as you mentioned, it's worse in our industry just because. And I think it's just because what we do is hard, right? It's not just there's problems every day, the truck's breaking down, issues. weather, all these different things lends for a very stressful work environment. So it's always tough to retain talent, even between different logistics companies. And I guess expanding on what I mentioned earlier is when we're working, what we want to do is we want to be driving value. We want to be having an impact on the company we're working for, and making 150 cold calls out to drivers to cover a load, data entry, these kind of repetitive tasks. As much as we want to keep them onshore and in our office, people in the States don't want to do that work anymore. They want to do work that's really more strategic, they feel is driving more value. And at the end of the day, that work still needs to be getting done. So what we found is with working with our clients, taking this over, they have actually internally better employee retention because those jobs become more strategic and more meaningful. But even expanding on this point, I'm sure a lot of your listeners know that outsourcing also, it's a tough job, right? A lot of people in outsourcing have tons of employee retention. So we've actually you can never solve a problem. We've temporarily solved it. We always have to reiterate and be better going on, but we have stellar employee retention. And for us internally, number one is I think all the employees will love to hear this, but not necessarily employers. You just have to pay more. Right? You have to pay your employees well, pay them what they're worth, and then continually increase those raises as they perform. I think that's one thing we're very, very good at, is just valuing our people. And then number two is just culture. Our number one value as a company is people first. So just treating the people the right way, making decisions to value those people, and giving them the tools they can to be successful in that role.
I have a question for you about something I was curious about, and you'd probably know. It's almost like BOGO, right? Like buy one, get one for hiring. What is 2-for-1 hiring? Am I pegging that right, or is that something completely different?
Yeah, it's similar, right? It's always that. I'm sure that's where we came from, but it was really to solve, like, one, hiring's hard, right? People, it's like you get 100 resumes. Everybody is putting on their best face in interviews. So, and it's just, outsourcing's new, and that's hard. So what we do for 2-for-1 is say, you have a truck brokerage and you want to hire me you need 5 carrier sales reps or track and trace reps. And you go, Nick, I need 5 people. What we actually do is we go out and hire 10, right? We interview probably hundreds, right? And finalize with 10. We'll give you those extra 5 completely free for 60 days. And then at the end of the 60 days, you and I sit down and say, okay, who's doing the best? Who's covering the most freight? Who's the most profitable? Who's buying into the culture? And it just has made this extremely successful, and lets us get off to the races with a really successful partnership.
So are you more niche, like totally in 3PL or freight brokerage, or do you provide employment everywhere?
So I'd say that's where we started, because I come from brokerage. This is initially how I got into space. I did this for a startup brokerage here in San Diego, and then branched off and started doing it for others. But the short answer is no, right? We do a ton of work for carriers in the dispatch, accounting realm. We also do some actually on the shipper end, which was pretty surprising to me that they have they've got their own supply chain struggles. And even though they have 3PLs to support them, they've needed our help as well. And also freight forwarders. There's just so much paperwork there, right? So much kind of repetitive tasks, making sure everything's going the right way. So I'd say those are kind of our 4 buckets that we help in. Number 1, brokerage, followed by carriers, freight forwarders, and shippers.
You know what, by the way, before I let you go, I saw your LinkedIn post. I didn't realize we were both at Manifest at the same time. And had I seen it, I would have taken you up on your Miss Pac-Man challenge. And then I would have taken you out in Street Fighter 2.
That would be so funny. I actually, in regards to that, it was I think it was a couple episodes ago where you guys were talking about Manifest. That airport was I went to pick my brother up because we were able to drive into San Diego, and I was in that line for an hour and a half before I called him. I'm like, hey, you need to walk out to departures, because I can't get in there to pick you up. So I just ended up going to a different part of the airport, and it was absolutely brutal. I think like Uber and Lyft shut down for a full hour, so everything was backed up.
Well, yeah, when I walked out, that's the first place I went. In airports these days, it's always a little confusing where like the cab versus the thing. And it was just like a sea of madness. And there was just thousands of people staying there waiting for Ubers, and mine wouldn't connect. And then I looked down, the taxi line was massive too, but at least it was a line. Right. And it still took two and a half hours to get to the hotel. And then because everyone was backed up, it was like another hour to check in. Fortunately, like that first day of Manifest was kind of a lighter day. I needed to recover after that.
Yeah, I think it was all talks the first day, which was pretty cool. It's like gave us because we had a pretty big booth, the nice arcade that you mentioned. So it's normally you're kind of handcuffed there talking to people. So it was great to see a bunch of great speakers and some good panels and get the information that the reason we all go in the first place to those.
Well, Nick, speaking of information, before I let you go, where can people get more about Valoroo?
So, of course, Valoroo.com. So, VALOROO.com is a great one. Feel free to request or honestly shoot me a personal email, right? We have sales staff, but always happy to hop on a call and talk to different people about opportunities. My direct email is Nick, Nick, @Valoroo.com. Happy to hear from anybody.
And Chiefs or Eagles?
Oh, I'm originally from St. Louis, and since the Rams burned us, I've got to go Chiefs. Chiefs.
Should I take the Mahomes prop bet 1.5 over 1.5 touchdowns?
Of course. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Well, hey, Nick, have a great weekend.
I think I'm going to make that bet.
It's right. Go on.
I'll talk to you offline about gambling, but we probably should do that on the air.
But it's like legal everywhere now. It's fine. We were just in Vegas.
Yeah.
All right, take it easy, man. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and we'll connect soon. And I'll take you up in that Ms. Pac-Man offer one of these days.
Awesome. Sounds good. Great talking to you.
Take care. Hey, meanwhile... Now, I don't know if you've encountered this, but any shop you go in, you got people cutting tape for the talk. Patrick, come on up, too. We got Patrick Wells here. I don't know if he's ever seen this on the Stone site, but you got this guy here. Any store he goes into, you just got everybody memeing for the TikTok. Have you, like, when these go online, you see people, like, freak out whenever someone posts, like, dancing in a grocery store? But I don't think I've ever seen this in public. You get
it goes on all the time.
Yes. I don't know how big of an issue it is. Our TV team, they're always getting busy like this. They're good moves, though. We got Patrick Wells with us, by the way. He's the CEO over at StoneLoads.
Yeah.
And you also have like the retail construction arm of it too, right?
Yeah, we also own a company called Majestic Stone. That's we own quarries and fabrication facility in Dayton, just about an hour north of here in Chattanooga.
Are you a Chattanooga native?
I'm not. I'm from Birmingham.
Interesting.
My wife's from here in Chattanooga, so it was once we started having kids. Chattanooga's a great place to raise a family, and it was an obvious choice for us.
I was going to say, is like, because we call this Freight Alley because of all the freight. I was wondering if it's like Rock Alley also, or Happy Wife, Happy Life Alley.
I get both. Both, absolutely, yeah. So definitely, such a large percentage of the stone that gets sold in the Southeast comes from right here in Tennessee. So it was perfect place, and you have the freight. And Chattanooga's 2 hours from Birmingham, Huntsville, Atlanta, Nashville. It's a great place to have a company sell rock.
Now, you mentioned that you have a stone quarry in Dayton. Is that where all of the rocks come from that you guys use?
Yeah, so everything that we quarry, that we produce from a Majestic Stone standpoint, comes from there in Dayton, but there are we have quarries in Crossville. A lot of stone comes from Crossville, and also down in Dunlap as well. So really within about an hour of Crossville, Chattanooga, Dayton, everything comes from right in there.
Now, they get some pictures here on some of like the Majestic Stone work. And we were talking about like the background. You've done a bunch of stuff in Chattanooga, haven't you?
Yeah.
Oh, right there. That's Chattanooga.
Yep. That's Miller Park, just just right on the road from here. Those big old slabs and we've done.
Was it Erlanger?
Yep. Outside of Erlanger, Children's Hospital's kind of an unknown secret of Chattanooga, and there's a memorial that we did. We've done a lot of work around Chattanooga, but But stone travels well.
Yeah.
And we also have distributors as far as California. So we ship rock right here from Chattanooga, Tennessee, all the way to California pretty much every week.
But you don't have to import any of this stuff. This is all just dug right out. What is that process like? It sounds like it sounds heavy. It sounds metal. It sounds rocky.
Yes. I mean, so everything's. It depends on where your quarry is, but you're talking about moving trees, moving a lot of dirt, excavators, off-road trucks, dozers to get to it. It's definitely a process. So once we get down to the quarry, then that's just the first step of actually getting it out of the ground, and then you have to process it and cut it and saw it to specific lengths and sizes for jobs. So.
Because it's always fascinating to me, and I look at like the work that's done here, and I love things that are right in front of us in logistics, right? But people don't think about unless they touch stone. It's like these things are massive. How do they get there? And you don't care. You're just like, I want a rock garden in my backyard.
Yeah.
I want a quarry. And we're going to get into the marketplace, and we're going to get into all that. But there's a quote you put, and I'm curious how you think, because you said the majority of my life can be summed up through the lens of sports.
Yeah.
How does that translate to what you do now?
Yeah. So a couple different things. So, I mean, a challenge. You definitely, I'm competitive by nature, and I want to have a challenge, but also like the teamwork aspect. Like I don't like doing things, on my own. I love having a team, and in like the business world, it's all about building a good team and having good people around you. And I mean, we're talking about the Super Bowl coming up.
Yeah.
These are the best players, and it's not just one person, it's a full team. And so growing up competing in sports and even competing in collegiately, just always being around just athletics it just drives you, and it makes you want to continue to grow and continue to build. And so yeah, sports has always meant much to me.
Well, I mean, logistics, you need a big team. You have this quarry site, this digging site, right? Yeah. You've got this sales arm with the Majestic Stone and the planning arm, and then you've got this marketplace side of it. Do you also have a fleet? Like, who do you use for trucking?
Yeah, so StoneLoads, our new online marketplace, was really birthed from Majestic Stone, from just experience that we had there at Majestic. And what we found was it's difficult for quarries to connect with stone yards all across the country. So similar on the freight side, how fragmented the industry is, our dealer network in the stone industry is extremely fragmented as well. And so we found an opportunity to really connect these. And how do we do it? Well, create an online marketplace. And so that's what we've been working with StoneLoads. And with StoneLoads, we spent a lot of time trying to find the right freight partner, because we have quarries all across the country posting full truckloads of material online, just trying to make it easier to buy and sell natural stone. And because we have a national footprint, the trucks at Majestic Stone here in Tennessee aren't going to help our quarries in Idaho or Montana or Arizona. So it was important to have a national trucking partner. And we searched for a while, and we found LoadSmart out of Chicago to really have the right platform to build into an online marketplace that just makes it super simple for anybody that's buying. They go online, they can put their destination where they're going, and within seconds, they're hit with an instant flatbed quote. And that's the kind of connectivity that we needed.
I love this story, because so many times I have guests on here, and the reason they started their 3PL or their freight tech or their marketplace is they were in a parallel business. Yeah. And they go, there's nobody actually serving this. I understand a little bit of logistics, and I don't understand where the impasse is between the two. Now, you mentioned StoneLoads, which is the marketplace side. We have a little video here. Can you kind of tell me what we're looking at?
Yeah.
Roll that tape, guys. There we go. So you go, you just query StoneLoads, you get right on the site.
Yeah, that's right. So what we're seeing here is the actual online marketplace, and hopefully it looks familiar and feels natural as you're searching it, very similar to what you would get from an Amazon or an eBay, or and so what you're looking at is like that stone right there is from Colorado. And what quarries are doing, and what we're helping quarries do, is connect them to distributors, connect them to stone yards, which are all across the country. And we're just trying to make it easier. And so what a quarry would do is as they get material available, They snap a couple pictures of it, they put the pertinent information online, and then a distributor, where the old way of doing it is they would have to pick up the phone and make phone calls and call around and ask, what do you have?
Yeah.
You know, well, what does your inventory look like? What material do you have? I mean, I'm trying to stock my yard, and I'm just looking for material. Well, I mean, all those phone, can you even get a hold of the quarry that day? Because, we're not in the most sophisticated industry. There are a lot of very good quarries out there that are that have great teams and plenty of people answering the phones. But oftentimes it's hard to get to a lot of these very remote quarries. And so what we're trying to do is not just make it easier to buy it, but also to sell it. So connecting these quarries and getting them from no longer faxing orders or faxing inventory lists and actually just making it more transparent and making it more available. So it's really helping both sides.
It's interesting because at Manifest, this conference I was at, I was just talking to this company, Pallet Trader, over there.
Yeah,
and they were a similar thing. They were like, we use pallets all the time, and it's so hard just to get, it shouldn't be this hard to get a pallet. Like, there should just be some place you can go if you need pallets and get them. And, I don't know enough about stone, so I need you to help me out here. What is, the variance in pricing of stones? I mean, all stones are kind of a little different, right?
Yeah, so price... there's a lot of different factors into it. So where Texas material, it costs a whole lot less to quarry their material or to get it out of the ground.
Is it softer? Is that why?
It is a little softer, but there's not as much what we call overburden. Like here in Tennessee, we're dealing with mountains.
Yeah.
And so there's so much dirt, just the elevation at which our stone is, it requires a lot more cost going into actually the extraction of the material. Whereas Texas, you go out there and it's super flat. Right? And so the stone is within just a couple feet of being under the ground, where we're looking at 30, 40 feet under the ground. So just the sheer cost of getting it. And then some material, you have more blade expense. It's just more difficult to fabricate. And so across the country, you have different prices for stone. But in as far as Texas or Idaho, the value of a site also makes it very transparent. So you're equipping the people actually buying it with all of the available information right there at their fingertips and really at their own time as well. What's been really neat is we're selling, full loads of stone on Saturdays and Sundays and holidays. And that's the beauty of an online marketplace, is you're really equipping the buyers on their own time and their own way to have more information in the buying decisions.
Nice. And did they arrange the freight themselves after going through the marketplace?
Yeah. So there's two options. Yes. So it's an extremely established industry as far as these quarries were buying stone before StoneLoads, and so many of them have their own freight partners, but they can also book freight right through the platform. And talking about making it easy, not having to wait on a phone call to a broker or not having to email back and forth different rates. They can just select to request a quote right there in the platform, and it spits out a quote to them. They can agree to it, and so they're actually booking the freight right all the way through the platform as well on a flatbed truck. So everything is within just a couple clicks.
That's great for newer companies just starting to, who sort of need that hand-holding. They don't really understand freight and broker relationships. They are very different than stone purveyor relationships.
Yeah.
It's its own animal. What do you have to consider with that freight? Because you're talking about really heavy stones. You're talking about mostly flatbedding, right?
Yeah, that's right. All flatbed right now, and everything's palletized. So we're not doing anything bulk. But what you were talking about was having the right relationship with your freight brokers. Sometimes, and not through StoneLoads, but sometimes in the stone industry, we need really large boulders moved. Like, for example, there was a quarry just outside of Arizona that needed a 300-ton boulder moved to LA. And it was it was amazing. I'll have to send you the link on it to talk. They custom built this trailer had over like 100 tires on it.
Yeah.
To move it, and you're right. Talking about needing a good freight broker for those scenarios, it's so important to have. But through StoneLoads, we're just talking about flatbed, palletized material, 24 tons max type type of work.
What kind of stone are people buying? And is most of this driven by home sales, like home buyers? Because I was looking for a home with my wife about 2 years ago, and I looked for a home about a decade ago. And then builders all copy each other, and they do the same exact thing with how they build, even down to like the color of the granite countertops.
Sure.
For between 10 years. How much does that drive what you do?
Yeah, a lot of it does.
Everything?
And yeah, so I mean, designers, architects have different styles and looks they're going for. The good thing for us is that, I mean, the stone is whatever God gives us, right?
Yeah.
So the colors, the textures. So thankfully, the stone we use will continue to be used, but it does change some with some design. But our main customers are the landscape yards that have the inventory that are stocking material on their yard, and then, like as homeowners, we would go to their stone yards and we would select, we want those, that color or those boulders. And so for us as producers, we're not selling to the direct to the homeowner, but so that does make it a little bit easier for us to be just going straight through distribution partners that are inventorying on their yard, so they have the huge selection of colors and different products to sell to homeowners.
What is your most popular kind of stone?
So at Majestic, we have sandstone, and we have grays and browns sandstone, but right now, Texas material, your lighter colors, your whites, your creams are very popular. Grays right now all across the country, like through StoneLoads, actually, a distribution yard in Florida that had never seen Idaho quartzite before, bought a load off our side, used the freight and everything. And what that did was that opened him up to a new vendor, new product that he had never seen. He would never have brought into his yard, but now he's exposed to a gray color that's very popular right now out of Idaho. And so definitely grays are very, very, very popular.
Now, like granite, for example, is that its own type of query? Do you guys do granite, or do some of these stones, there's multiple types of stones within a query?
Yeah. So you have granite quarries, you have marble quarries, you have limestone quarries, and sandstone, and even shale in different parts of the country that are moving. You have Pennsylvania bluestone, which is very popular, which is another sandstone. And so stone is very regional. So here in here in Tennessee, it's primarily sandstone and limestone. But just south of Knoxville, you do get marble. And here throughout Chattanooga, I could show you several buildings around here that have a Tennessee marble on them. You also have your granites that are kind of in the Carolinas and also up in down in Georgia. And so it's pretty spread out, but they're typically, if you've got a granite quarry, you're not producing sandstone, you're producing granite, and so it's kind of spread out throughout the country.
Interesting. So I had some relatives out recently, so we did like the touristy stuff around here. We went over to Ruby Falls. Yeah. And you've been there, right?
Sure.
And when you go, they show you the video about like the guy who he built Ruby Falls for the wife, and he loved her so much, but he also spent like 26 hours a day like building and getting black lung within that. Have you ever done any projects like that? Have you ever had to like bore in, like make a bunker for someone or make some underground stuff?
We've not, but that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, one of the coolest jobs that you're starting to see more of, is you're talking about like architects and designers really pushing the process, is when a designer or architect really wants to portray like what the stone looked like in the quarry, and they'll come and they'll say, I want you to just cut out this huge section of exactly how it looks in the quarry and transport that to a job, and
like carpet swaths or paint swatches.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard to even fathom without like being there and seeing it. But you're seeing this push towards very natural look. And even up on, like here in Chattanooga, they're building a resort off the back of Lookout called Macklemore, and it's so important for them to look natural and look like the stone had been there forever, even on these new builds. So we're not building bunkers, but they definitely, people want a very natural feel as when they're buying natural stones.
That was interesting. You got any other stone facts in you? I'm curious about the equipment. So going back to because you're like, wait, that's so much. That is so broad. I could say anything. Yeah. No, so like I was that Ruby Falls thing. So this guy, what do you dig with a shovel back then? Like, how much has the equipment changed while you're doing this?
The quarry extraction material has come a long way. What's really interesting is when you start looking at who has quarried the longest, and if you really want to learn stuff about quarrying, you start looking at Italy. You start looking overseas, and those countries have been quarrying for hundreds and hundreds and 500, 600, 700 years, where we've just been quarrying over here for the last couple hundred years.
Yes.
And so their technology, their extraction, their quarries are so well established. The saws, the diamond blades they're using, how they're building out mass producing quarries, and these blocks. It's fascinating. For us, it's pretty simple. It's mostly excavators, dozers, articulating dump trucks, forklifts, front end loaders, big heavy duty forklifts, and then saws to saw it straight out of the quarry, and then saw it to size and make it look simple, but it's a tough process.
Now, does Majestic ever do backyards? Mm-hmm. Wow. So we live in the North Shore, and everything on there's on a hill, so we don't have like a huge backyard. Yeah. And we've been thinking about what to do with there, and it's a lot of grass. We have 2 dogs, so they just like sort of crap everywhere.
Yeah, of course.
So our thought is like make a strip of grass, maybe put down some stone, maybe put down some stone bench.
Yeah.
Can I reach out to you guys about that?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, we do a lot of outdoor stuff, patios, landscape edging, exactly what you're talking about.
Cool.
For sure.
I'll ask you about that off air. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, anything else people should know about working with StoneLoads or Majestic before I let you get off towards the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Check us out, StoneLoads.com. It's the best way to check us out and get in contact with us. We love connecting people, and on the freight side as well, we'd love to connect. So yeah, StoneLoads.com, best way to get a hold of us.
And we need the predictions. You got Chiefs or Philly?
My heart says Philly.
Philly?
Because of Jalen Hurts and that whole story with him. My mind says Chiefs, though. It's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes.
What about, all right, well, how about you go Philly, but you take the prop bet of Mahomes 1.5 touchdowns?
Definitely over. Oh,
yeah, over on that.
Yeah, over, but the Eagles win.
But the Eagles win. Yeah, we're both on that, so root for us. I appreciate you coming by today.
Yeah, thank you.
It's really
Thanks
cool.
so much for
and
having
I'll
me.
talk to you about that backyard. My wife is probably watching us, smiling right now. She's like, thank God.
Yes.
We need to do something about that. Appreciate
That's
it.
Right. Yeah.
Take care. All right, China, India, Vietnam, Belgium, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, and Mexico. AIT Logistics has 2,000 supply chain experts in these countries and, of course, in offices around the United States. And in 2023, they're adding more locations around the world as the organization continues to expand and make it easier than ever for the world as the organization continues to expand to make it easier than ever for customers to ship between Asia, Europe, and North America. If you're ready to create a shipping program as unique as your business, as unique as my next guest, you can learn more at AITworldwide.com. But now it's time to sing a little happy birthday. Happy birthday, Monica. I'm not going to get into the whole song, but look, we even got confetti for you. I heard it was your birthday yesterday. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's the easiest thing to get congratulated for because all you do is like stay alive, right?
That's true.
Oh, by the way, I had this here to remind myself. Why would I be wearing a lei right now?
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe because we're going to talk about Hawaii.
We are going to talk about Hawaii. You were telling me online that far too many people think that you can take a truck from California to Hawaii.
Yes. I have been asked and told that freight will stay on a truck all the way to Hawaii, or, I can't give them a quote. There's no bridge yet.
Well, tell me about that. What does SeaWide Express do? You guys handle that sort of freight that nobody thinks about until they have to get it over there, which is Hawaii, Alaska, and Guam.
You're right. Lots of people get RFPs and they see all these freight lanes within the lower 48 states and, they start plugging their numbers in. But when Hawaii, Guam, Alaska are listed there, most people skip it. They don't know who to call. So SeaWide has a specialty niche in the domestic freight market. We operate CFS terminals on the West Coast where we receive in LTL freight. we consolidate it to ocean containers, and then we ship them offshore and deliver to the final destination.
Interesting. How do you do that? Because I'm now the Jones Act is popping in my head, and I don't want to trigger people. I know that in maritime, and probably especially in your space, this could be a hot button topic. But how does what you do play in with like the Jones Act, for example?
So, SeaWide is Jones Act compliant, and like you said, the Jones Act can bring some sore feelings to people sometimes, a little bit of negative connotivity. I try to stay out of that when it comes to talking freight. It definitely has its pluses and minuses for folks, both onshore and offshore. I would highly encourage people to do a little bit of research into what the Jones Act actually is, and why it exists. But there are certain providers that do require you to be Jones Act compliant when you ship to Hawaii, Guam, and Alaska, particularly the government, of course. So SeaWide is Jones Act compliant.
So what does that mean for shippers, though? People who are not familiar with like the Jones Act or why it's important to be Jones Act compliant, or how even the Jones Act can make it difficult to get something from the U.S. to Hawaii, Alaska, and Guam because of the nature of the rule.
So, in a brief summary, the Jones Act, it was put there to protect U.S. states and territories in times of war. That they would get the added benefit of U.S. protection in terms of the military, naval ships, things like that, not be cut off from the supply chain, in those types of instances. It can make it difficult. Not all vessels and ships are Jones Act compliant. So being compliant means that you have a certain amount of steel in your vessel that is actually American made, that your crew is American. So it can cause a little bit of difficulty. In terms of not all the vessels and barges are compliant to that. So you cannot necessarily move freight on any particular provider. And as we know, that can in turn change the rates that you're paying. So it does disrupt it a little bit.
It's like trying to slip a can of Coke past the TSA. There's just rules sometimes. And they'll tell you, not that you and I don't have experience with that or anything. So
never leave Coke in your bag.
What's good in your world? What are you seeing in this? And what are volumes like? How are those tracking towards Alaska and Hawaii? People shipping a lot of goods over there? Has it slowed down with the economy, or are they both kind of hand in hand?
So between the economy and, I hate to say COVID, but these markets are really unique. They don't manufacture a lot. So most goods are brought in from either the mainland or overseas. They are reliant on most of the general living goods, foods, disposables, things that we take for granted here on the mainland that are so easy to come by. The majority of goods are brought in. There's not a whole lot that necessarily is coming back out, aside from dunnage and a small amount of manufactured goods or returns. Each market is definitely different. Hawaii is a very tourist-based economy, and that reflects in the supply chain market and in shipping. There's a lot of retail goods that go over, hospitality goods, in addition to general living goods. Alaska's a little bit different. That they do have a high volume of tourism, but there's a lot of machinery and mining and materials like that go to Alaska. So the goods are definitely different, but the volumes haven't changed. The volumes, if anything, have increased over the past 2-3+ years. business continues. There's not as many people in these locations, but the needs remain the same. And through COVID and the economy, they press on in all these points and remain active, and business is booming as far as we can see.
No, so Hawaii, multiple islands, right? Do your ships make multiple port calls, or do you just go to the main island and then feeder vessels bring everything? How does that work? Because you mentioned it. I mean, cost of living in Hawaii and Alaska can get really expensive because you have to basically import everything in and move it around.
Right. So in Hawaii, generally speaking, freight is brought into 5 main points. There are a number of smaller islands out there. They are not inhabited the way that Oahu, Maui, Kauai, and Hawaii are. So those are the main points. We do bring freight to all of those islands. We deliver to the majority of points. There are remote places in Hawaii when it comes to freight. And so generally, people that live in the more remote areas may have to pick up from the port to get their goods. But we do have freight services going to all of the main points of Hawaii.
Very, very cool. So what's more challenging to service? Is it Alaska, or is it Hawaii, or is it Guam?
There's not a lot that goes to Guam. That's mostly a military installation. So I wouldn't say that any of them are necessarily hard. Alaska definitely has a lot more points that are remote. So when people talk about trucking, Alaska does come into play. People want to get a rate by truck. They think you can just, head north and send a truck up to Alaska, but not all points are serviceable by road in Alaska. So even getting freight up into the main points of Anchorage or Fairbanks or down into the southeast, you often have to then put freight onto other barges or onto air service to get it to its final destination.
Very cool. Well, hey, also, when I was looking on your page, I noticed something, and that's you have a hidden talent. You're a little bit of an artist, are you not? Have you not been designing these things for years over here? Tell me about that really quickly. Maybe we can get some people to go check that out too.
Wow. I was not expecting that, but yeah, we talk about it a lot. On LinkedIn, I think in the logistics world, a lot of us have a side hustle. So I am an artist. I've been designing hex signs for probably close to 20 years.
Hold on. What's a hex sign? What is that?
It's an Amish Dutch tradition. So I came from Ohio before I moved down here to Atlanta. They are typically, you see them at the peak of a barn. You can see them in pretty much most of the eastern half of the United States, but they're geometric designs that are designed to bring good fortune. So the shapes and the colors have different meanings, and I typically design them as a gift type idea that you can give someone for a wedding, or teachers, or for Christmas, and they're just meant to bring you good luck.
Well, the Amish What the Truck listeners will be delighted to know that their hex designs are being well represented. Now, before I let you go, where do people go to learn more about SeaWide and also to learn more about your designs?
Okay, well, to learn more about my artwork, you can go to hexsigndesign.com, and you can see reproductions and original artwork there. Getting back to our topic of SeaWide Express, you can go to our website at SeaWideExpress.com. There is information about us there, as well as a link to contact us. You can also check us out on LinkedIn, and you can certainly check me out on LinkedIn as well if you have questions about our services.
Excellent. You know what I'd love to do one time is like track a shipment, get like a video camera or something, track a shipment from, California over to Hawaii, and we can edit together and show people some of that process too. I think that's what we should do next time. But for now, it's almost time for the weekend. There's one last question. Who's winning the Super Bowl? Is it Philly or is it Kansas City?
I'm going to go with Kansas City. I have a soft spot for the Chiefs.
Okay. All right. I think that's, two of us picked Philly. All right. Well, hey, have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and we'll catch up later on that other topic.
Sounds good.
Take care. Appreciate you. All right. It's Friday, so it's time for a little good news, bad news before we send you home. Okay. Geez, this video is disturbing. Bad news, you're out on a run for Amazon delivering packages when this happens. Take a look at this film from the, nope, that's not disturbing. It's the video of the Amazon driver being held up at gunpoint, guys. You got that? Talk to me, Goose. Okay, WBAZ reports, according to investigators, this driver here that we're just about to show you, he was parked in this driver right here, he was parked in an apartment complex, and he was delivering packages on January 13th when these men were waiting for him, these two guys right here. One of the suspects in the video, you see it right there, he's got the gun to the guy's neck. He doesn't know what to do with his cell phone. He's totally freaking out. And then another one of his accomplices steps right in the truck. They bring this guy into the back. The sheriff's office said the driver, fortunately, he was not hurt during this robbery. He might have some PTSD, though. But they've arrested, that's the good news, they've arrested these two men. Authorities took into custody 22-year-old Archimedes Divinard and 23-year-old Joel Amy. They're facing charges including robbery with a firearm, but here's the really frustrating part about all of this. It says the sheriff's office said the two suspects have a long criminal record totaling 85 felony charges and 11 convictions. What are we doing? What are we doing? Let's keep our drivers safe out here. It starts with you. We're there in the court. Wild. All right, here's a little better news. You're a deer, and you've gotten trapped in a mud hole. Look at this guy right here. Take a look at this guy. There we go. Got this crew on the scene with an excavator. Love to see it. I don't think you can even see the deer right there. I'm not sure who called this out exactly. I bet Pat Wells and StoneLoads guys can help a deer with some of their equipment. So frightened too. See, there was a lot of water over there, a lot of flooding.
Hey, just set it down and let her walk out.
Oh, here we go. And look at that, a little dirty. But you're going to see this,
Come out. Get in the puddle. Take a bath. There you go. Run,
love to see it.
Run.
You know, Bambi's a little dirty.
Run.
But I think he's going to make it. Got another one for you. Speaking of disturbing videos, this is show this right here. This is not real life. This is a reenactment. This actually, by the way, the graphics in Microsoft Flight Simulator are incredible. But I'll let you listen to this.
Tower Southwest 708. We're short of 18 left. We're ready. Southwest 708 off the tower. Runway 18 left. RVR 1,200. Midpoint 600. Roll out 1,600. Heading 170, runway 18 left, clear for takeoff. Traffic 3 mile final is a heavy 767. Okay, 170, clear for takeoff. 18 left, copy the traffic, Southwest 708.
This is the real audio.
Tower confirm, FedEx 1432 heavy, clear to land on 18 left.
FedEx 1432 heavy, that is affirmative, sir. 18 left, you are clear to land. Traffic departure, Roger, route to 737.
Roger.
Southwest 708, confirm on the road. Rolling now.
Southwest aboard.
Nope. Southwest ain't
FedEx is
boarding.
on the go.
They're speeding up.
Southwest 708, Roger, you turn right when able. Now you get it.
Aviation Pros reports the Federal Aviation Administration said Saturday that an air traffic controller had cleared that incoming FedEx plane to land on the runway, and then shortly then gave Southwest Airlines permission to take off on the same exact runway. Fortunately, that FedEx jet, as you can see, it aborted that takeoff and managed to do it in time. There was no collision there, but scary incident. And here's an issue too. The NTSB, they said they were unable to retrieve the cockpit voice recorders from either aircraft, as both had been recorded over. Can you believe it? All right. Good news. You're on a nice, relaxing vacation, and you even get to experience the local wildlife. Bad news. The wildlife might want your deck chair. Make way for the Emperor. The Emperor seal. I guess that would be an Emperor penguin. Close enough. Hey, anyways, we're out of time on today's show. Find me on Twitter at Timothy Dooner. That is DOONER. Subscribe to the show wherever you get podcasts by looking up What the Truck, or get every single FreightWaves podcast all on one convenient feed by looking up Freightcast. And if you want to watch this show in stunning HD, download the FreightWaves TV app or subscribe to us on YouTube. Hey, enjoy the Super Bowl. Have a great weekend. Take care, and don't be a stranger.
FreightWaves is the #1 source for transportation and logistics news. FreightWaves.com provides you with in-depth news coverage, data, and insights from the leading industry journalists and market experts. On FreightWaves.com, you can also watch the only streaming TV network dedicated to freight. FreightWaves TV provides you with coverage you won't find anywhere else. However you like your news delivered, check us out online or on the FreightWaves app.
When guests come to an event like F3, we know what they want is a chance to show off their products, their swag, and make new partnerships that will last until our next FreightWaves event.
But the problem is there are so many industry events, it can be so hard to find the right one to invest your time and energy in. We at FreightWaves take your investment seriously.
Which is why we've brought together thousands of industry professionals in one city over 3 days to showcase all you have to offer.
Because your successful connections at an event like F3 move all of us forward.
Don't believe us?
Join us in June. The 2023 Freight Tech 25 list is filled with meaningful innovators from across the industry who are helping shape what the future of supply chain will look like. Check out the full list of these companies and all the latest Freight Tech news at freightwaves.com.
What the Truck is now 3 days a week.
Hello and welcome to Full Speed Ahead. I'm Craig Fuller here with Mark Casaglo. He is the VP of Sales for Outreach IO. Mark, how are you doing today?
Good, man. How you doing, Craig?
Doing well. So, Mark, a lot of interest around sales tools that really enhance the sales process. Tell us a little bit about Outreach.
Yeah. Outreach is a sales execution platform. The purpose of Outreach is to help people overcome the sales execution gap. What you can think about that as is there's the potential that your sales team could operate at if everything worked the way that you intended and planned. And then there's the actual where you actually end up operating at. There's a gap between those two things. A lot of companies, for example, realize that gap when their revenue growth plans don't match up with their headcount growth plans. So there's an implied productivity gap that they need to overcome in order to hit those revenue targets. And so Outreach is a technology that sales organizations, customer success organizations, SDR organizations can use to make their reps more productive to overcome that gap.
So how are you driving productivity? What is the sort of key part of the technology or solution that's really enhancing that productivity?
Yeah, it's kind of on several levels. So think about it first, Craig, if you're thinking in the prospecting top of funnel area, there's discipline required and consistency that leads to outcomes. Outreach's technology applies master, super experienced level of consistency, even with junior young reps. So think of a young sales hire, first time in seat. They just don't have the consistency and discipline necessarily to call somebody 23 times over the next 2 quarters. But our best reps are doing those sorts of things. And to get the same results, the new reps need to do those things. Outreach helps them with that discipline and consistency. The second major area is around automation. And so, there's things that the machine can do now that we as people just don't need to do. Many companies, though, are still forcing the reps to do those things. And the more of those things they do, the less high value activities that they can do. So an example is, would you rather your reps write another follow-up email, or would you rather them be in a meeting or planning an account plan type of situation in order to get into an account? The latter are much more higher value things than sending a follow-up email. So let's just let the machine do that because it's very capable of that. And then the last thing is I think in the end, what ends up happening with a lot of people is they either have great people doing all the right things, but our messaging is messing up their productivity and outcomes. Or we have messaging that's great and performs, but reps that aren't using it correctly. And identifying which scenario you're in so that you know how to fix it becomes really important. So those are the top of funnel things. There's also pipeline areas as we get into the sales cycle. And then there's also some of those value props after an account is a customer and you're trying to renew and expand the business.
So a lot of it sounds like cadence and consistency is probably among the most important things, is just staying current with the clients and having touch points. Is that really the differentiator between a successful rep and an unsuccessful rep from what you guys seeing?
It's one of the things. And I would say like 4 years ago, I would have said you've actually hit the bullseye, Craig. I don't know if that's the bullseye anymore. So think about it like this, like a cadence or what we call a sequence. We actually invented and hold a patent for that technology. Helps you with a series of touch points or rep activities over time that are at an interval that are trying to accomplish something. That could be booking a meeting, getting back a security review, working through procurement, whatever it is. There's another type of system that works for closing reps. Closing reps need that kind of help, but they also need what are the series of steps that I need to work my way through to get this person to agree to purchase? And we call that a success plan. Some people call it a mutual action plan. So that's the sequence solution of a closing job to be done or a closing role. And then you need the same sort of thing for a customer success person that's trying to renew and expand. And so I would say it's gone much beyond cadencing technology. That's kind of table stakes now. We've had to build out more value after that, but that still is a key component of our technology.
Mark, a lot of automation tools have really made the sales process feel to a recipient very unpersonalized. Feels very programmatic. I get inundated with hundreds, if not thousands, of emails a day from suppliers of any technology and service that anyone can possibly mention. Because I'm as CEO and founder of the company, I tend to be on a lot of lists. And how does a rep differentiate? How do they sort of avoid the noise and get through all that when I am naturally trying to filter away from any of those inbounds? How do you really find success in today's automated environment?
Yeah, I think it's a triangulation of what does a customer need? Do I hit them at the right time, in the right channel, with the right message? And so, listen, there's a lot of people that's like, oh, well, it feels canned. I can feel it's automated. Do you know what? People don't respond to the email that it took you 3 hours to create either. All right. So there's some myths about what people respond and don't respond to. Craig, I almost guarantee you I could send you a completely automated message. But if you were talking about a specific topic that was related to that and the messaging connected to you, that topic, it doesn't matter if it's personalized or not. It doesn't matter if the machine meant it or not. And that's why consistency is the key. Is I need to catch you in a frame of mind where you're thinking about the value prop I'm talking about, and then have a proven way to discuss that value prop that creates interest or demand, and then you'll reply. It's pretty much it's that simple, but we kind of try to overcomplicate it and think that there's some kind of silver bullet out there. If I just personalize it the right way, Craig will hear me. Listen, you know what silver bullets kill, Craig? Werewolves. And most of us ain't out here trying to kill werewolves. There's just regular old monsters all over the place that we got to kill. Regular old bullets do fine.
It's funny you mentioned that because I think about the times I have bought software. A lot of times it's just I have a problem and I'm not thinking, I'm like, I need to go solve this. And I don't go through and look at my emails and sort of dig through them to find it. Because oftentimes if I don't recognize that I have that issue, I'm not even paying attention to the companies that are sending me these inbounds. But there have been situations where I know I have a problem and it's almost serendipitous, even though it's not, because I've been getting emails from these reps for weeks and months and potentially years. It just so happens that it shows up in my inbox, and guess who gets the next deal is the person who reached out at the time when I knew I had an issue and I was able to buy.
Yeah. I mean, we have examples of reps calling, emailing, LinkedIn touches, 253 activities against a prospect before they finally pay attention and book the meeting. Is it because all of our messaging stunk up till then? No. Is it because we were in the wrong channel the whole time? No. It's just because our value proposition didn't register, didn't cause something to happen in that person's brain at a time when their brain was thinking about those things. And listen, our job is to create demand as sellers too. So sometimes you hit somebody with something that they aren't thinking about that creates enough interest, but that's a really hard row to hoe. I think that an easier way to think about it is I need to make sure that I am consistently talking and getting in front of people so that when they are thinking about what I'm talking about, I am there.
Mark, in terms of sort of batting average, generally, what is a rep, not in terms of the amount of emails they send, but after they get the product demo or first touch, what is generally the rule of thumb? Is there an optimal? Does it depend on the product? Do you sort of track that data in terms of sort of demo or first touch to close?
We monitor that in here. So we have we call our first meeting an initial meeting. If that initial meeting goes well, and we have 5 criteria that define if it goes well, it becomes what we call sales accepted lead. And then we measure win rates from the creation of the IM or initial meeting to close. And we also monitor the win rates from SAL, or that meeting's been accepted, to close. I think there are benchmarks. I do know what they are. I think it's super dangerous to talk about, Craig, because if you have a very highly transactional business or a very complex enterprise level sophisticated sales process, like the numbers don't mean anything. And it's not fair, I think, to look at all those different types of industries and products and like combine their number into one number. That just seems like, I combine peanut butter, jelly, mayonnaise, and ham together. Like individually, I can make good sandwiches with them all of them together make a disgusting thing.
Yeah, I mean, you think about every product's different. Every size of deal is different. Buyer need is different. It's just, I imagine it varies based on a lot of different dynamics in companies. I'm curious though, when someone goes out and implements your solution, what do you typically see in terms of improved close rate, improved sales cycle time? What is the metric that defines success of one of your customers in using outreach?
So again, we shy away from benchmarks. This is what defines success. Craig, I'm sure right now, as a CEO and founder, that you've entered a meeting room or a Zoom room in the last 2 to 3 weeks and said, guys, we have to solve this problem. This problem is getting the business in trouble. Or you've been given a report that makes you think we got to solve this. The way that we measure success is we identify what that thing is that has large business impact. We help drill it down to a single metric that lets us know if we're doing well or not. And then we monitor how we're improving or not that metric. And if we help them hit their goal, then we've done what we need to do and we move on to another problem and we keep expanding out in that manner. So like we don't say like we improve your win rates this, we improve your reply rates this. That's kind of like meaningless. What's important is hey, you have a pipeline gen problem. You missed pipe gen by $50 million last quarter. You need to close that gap this quarter. Well, outreach helped you do it. So we did what we were supposed to do for that, which another company might not have pipe gen problems. So
yeah, every company's got different issues. I'm curious, as you think about work from anywhere, post-COVID environment and what's happening in the economy, are you finding that companies are investing more in technology today for sales automation and optimization than they were in the past? Or is this a continuum sort of a trend that has always been there and is just continuing to accelerate? Have we seen a breakout moment in sales technology because companies have realized that they no longer sort of have that touch and feel with their reps inside of a sales office and really need to invest in technology to drive the processes?
I think the answer is yes. I think the other thing that's happening, Craig, is there are a few early adopters that are starting to have real competitive advantages that the market is seeing. Like, let me give you an example. We have a